Happy Monday, folks. Welcome to College Football Time with Avery and Miguel. I'm Miguel Mike Medina. This is my partner, Avery Jones. Avery, how are you today? How was your weekend?
I'm great. It was a wonderful weekend, crazy games, college football Saturday as well as professional on Sunday. But, this is the best time of year now. We're heading into late October. Now teams are starting to position themselves for a potential playoff berth.
Yes, indeed. Avery, we got to start from the top. James Franklin, his time with Penn State has come to an end. Penn State got embarrassed for the second week in a row. Last week we thought that losing to UCLA was rock bottom, but losing to Northwestern was even bigger rock bottom. They lost 22 to 21. Drew Allen most likely finished his collegiate career on a terrible leg injury. They've lost three in a row. It is crazy, like I texted you yesterday, how quickly they have unraveled. They're done. They're not going to the playoffs. And now they're looking for basically a new chapter that they'll be entering.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking for Drew Adler, to go down the way he did. Um, at the time he got injured, Penn State was leading. So, it's interesting that the entire scenarios that have gone on at the end of last year, that with Aller being hurt, it could have helped them having a pretty decent backup quarterback to help protect that win. But yeah, Penn State, they had a really great start of the season. They were hoping again playoff berth, potential conference title. Now no head coach. They're kind of in the wind, no direction. And it is sad, not just with, losing your quarterback, but also in a way, Penn State's identity for the past actually 10 years. James Franklin was head coach for nearly 11. He got hired in 2014, and I believe actually over the before the weekend started, my colleague who is a Penn State fan, we were actually talking about that we did not think that Penn State would fire James Franklin because his contract was in until I think 2031, I believe. So this was shocking, but like I said, Penn State start over, trying to find that identity again. So it is what it is.
Yeah, many players came back to Penn State. They wanted to run it back, but clearly that didn't work out. James Franklin, I believe Penn State still owned 49 million because he was under contract.
Yes.
So James Franklin, he will get another job. I would say, for him to take as much time as off, spend with his family, regroup, but he will definitely will get back on his feet. Hopefully Penn State, they will get what they find, not for this season, but for next year.
Yeah.
As for Northwestern, we got to give credit to them. Um, they ended their 11-year winless drought at Beaver Stadium, so that's good. Congratulations to Northwestern. But moving on, Avery, Red River, Texas, Oklahoma. I am super shocked that John Latier played. I did not expect him to play, but clearly you could tell Avery, it was so obvious he was not 100%. Three interceptions, very uncharacteristic from him. It was just bad for him. He had no business being on the football field that day. I respect the toughness, but
I
but this was not he was not supposed to play in this game.
I
Um,
I completely agree. I completely agree with you because on ESPN they actually showed how they repaired his hand. So you're talking about, like, over 2 weeks prior, you have surgery. And then for some reason you want to be back for this game. Like I said, I agree with you. You're probably looking at the calendar thinking, okay, we're doing well. Here comes the Red River Robbery on the calendar. It was almost like we have to win this game because of the way Texas was moment. But I agree with you. John Retier had really had no business playing during that game. He should have healed. He should have made sure Oklahoma was doing very well. Of course, having your quarterback for that pivotal game, it would have, given them a lot of momentum. But in this case, Texas wanted it more. They were playing at the Cotton Bowl, and Texas was not going to be denied. And they got their upset that they sorely needed. They sorely needed.
Oklahoma, they have a tough schedule coming ahead. This is a very good team, especially when you have a healthy John Mateer on offense. They have an elite defense as well. And Florida Gators, they sacked Arch Manning about 6 times last week. This elite defense of Oklahoma only got to Arch Manning just once. So much credit to Texas offensive line, but this was mostly about Texas defense and how they showed up in this game. Arch Manning, he was solid, 21 of 27, 166 yards, 1 touchdown, no turnovers whatsoever. So he played well. But again, the defense did their job. They won this game 23-6. Good job for Texas Longhorns on winning this game. Moving on, Avery, and this one was a surprising victory for me. But on this day, um, I feel happy for Deion Sanders. This was an inspiring win for Colorado Buffaloes. Huge win against a very tough and gritty Iowa State, 24-17. It is a very inspiring win because no matter how much we criticize Deion Sanders as a coach, but this was such inspiring because 4 days ago he had surgery on blood clots on his legs. So this was a very feel good victory for him, for Colorado. They played well. Yes, there was a controversial no call, but that was at the beginning of the fourth quarter. So I won't hold that against Colorado because even though that did happen at the beginning of the fourth quarter, you still have the rest of the quarter to come away with a victory. But they earned this victory, and huge interception by safety Taufik Byers. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. That was a huge interception at the goal line. But yeah, great victory by Colorado.
No, I this game was on my list to keep an eye out for. So yeah, I completely agree with you. The health issues of Coach Deion Sanders have popped up. It's not his fault. If anything, we all want to know to take care of ourselves. We want to listen to our body. But knowing that Coach Sanders was on the sideline, the players were giving their all for this. And I completely and right there when you're having ranked opponents come to your house, you want to play the best game you can. And Iowa State at this point, I mean, the Cyclones were trying to just get back in the thick of it and playing Colorado. They felt that they had it in the bag, but Colorado, a lot of really toughness because this was really a back and forth game. There was no real team that had control over it. It was very back and forth, and kudos to Colorado for getting the upset.
Yes, indeed. I'm happy for them on this day. I'm definitely happy for them. Moving on, Avian. This was a noon game. Quite interesting. Pittsburgh Panthers versus Florida State. The Panthers,
Yes.
they beat the Seminoles 31 to 34 to 31. Desmond Reed had 12 rushes, 45 yards, 8 receptions. The Seminoles, they're struggling. They're now 0-3 in conference play. Brian McFadden, who played with the Steelers, won with the Steelers. He's a former Seminole alumni. He works for CBS Sports. He completely shredded the team in half. But what's so funny about that segment is he was shredding Florida State, but his wardrobe was the Pittsburgh Panthers
He
colors,
was
labeling. Yeah, that was
he
so
was shredding. He
hilarious to
was
me.
shred, he was wearing the color scheme of the opponents.
Exactly. That's what made it so funny and so epic. I was totally with him in his frustration. We get it. It was a school, and he had every right to say, but it was just so hilarious how he was wearing those colors.
Yeah.
But But yeah, it's pretty tough times in Florida State right now.
It is, and now because they've lost three conference games, this is going to be tough for them, to come back. But if Florida State has shown anything at this point, they are very resilient. They know they have an uphill climb, a very, very steep uphill climb at this point. And like I was talking with a colleague, when you have these teams that have that grit with a little help on Saturdays for other ranked opponents to be upset, and we saw that this Saturday, they can come back from this. I don't think a top 12 playoff is in their future, but I will say this, them turning their season around has already done benefits for the program. Now, at this point, they just need to figure out what more they can do to end the season on a good note. Like for anything, I always hope for a school getting a bowl berth. And I think Florida State can still do that. It is going to be a bit tough for them, but knowing how their recent loss to Pitt occurred, I do see that happening for them. I do see this turning them around a bit and being more gritty, more effective in their offense. And they have their school behind them. And if anything, you got, what happened on Saturday when you have your alumnus calling you out, then that could be grateful fuel for the fire.
Yep, yep, indeed. Brian McFadden, he brought the house down with that. But Avery, how about them Indiana Hoosiers? They picked up their first road win against a top five team in school history. I mean, Fernando Mendoza, he was sensational. I gotta send you a video that I saw on Saturday that made me appreciate him and his family even much more. So I'm gonna share that with you after we're done with this. But great victory by Indiana. Kurt Signetti, I like that this year he's not talking as much compared to last year. He's letting the game do the talking. And I'm very happy for Indiana because now they're number three in the AP poll top 25. So congratulations to the Hoosiers. Wow. Impressive victory by Oregon. I mean by
Oh,
Indiana.
oh yeah, oh absolutely. Because Indiana really needed this. With Ohio State winning against Illinois, Indiana winning this game, especially in Oregon, would have been great to catapult them further. And it literally happened. They dug deep. They made plays. They stopped Oregon when they needed to. And the fact that they won in Oregon, Oregon, really tough place to play. The fact that the Hoosiers pulled this off and now they are a top ranked team. I mean, Indiana's going far right now. Like I said before, I'll say it again. When you have schools that have traditional great basketball programs or even another great collegiate sport that they're now tapping in to their football program and turning it around. And now not only do you have the backing from, you know, those fans from basketball, now you have those same fans backing you during the football season. Now this school is getting momentum. Now this school is getting momentum. And let me tell you, if you are an Indiana Hoosier fan, I'll tell you one thing, Pat McAfee, now granted, I'll say it, I'm not the biggest Pat McAfee fan, but Pat McAfee is probably going to be insufferable any other college game day until, Indiana loses. And you're looking at their schedule, Indiana's schedule is probably looking like how I said about Miami's schedule. They've gotten over kind of their toughest opponents right now. I would have said that Penn State would have been a tough opponent if not for what has occurred. But I mean, there's maybe a couple teams that could give them. a what for, but Indiana is now looking in the same shape as the University of Miami. It's possible they could go undefeated regular season. So they keep their head on their shoulders, they play smart football, they don't make mistakes, they keep that grit about them. They tap into that wonderful Indiana Hoosier history of being an underdog, and nobody kind of, giving you a bit of respect, for it. I look for great things for the rest of the season for the Hoosiers.
LSU beat South Carolina 20-10. Tight end Trey Des Green became the first LSU tight end with 100 plus receiving yards in a game since 1994. Impressive stuff right there. Texas A&M, their defense was legit against the Gators. They held them to just 74 rushing yards. The Aggies finished with 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and they're now 6-0 this season. Tennessee, they beat Arkansas 34-31, and they had to hold
Barely,
on. They had to hold on. And
barely.
and this was not the prettiest game for them because they did have 10 penalties. However, they used 3 Razorbacks turnovers to their advantage.
Yeah, that they barely held on to that one. I looked for Tennessee to be more dominant in their win. See, we're at the point now that your wins now solidify your rankings. So teams now have to be careful if you're in the top 12, and like Tennessee was ranked 12th on Saturday. So now teams have to be careful if you're squeaking out a win and you're like in the top 10 and think that might be okay, that may not be it. Because everybody above you, if they're dominating in their wins, you're going to slide down real quick. And it's not just a point of conference play now. Your wins now have to be dominant. So Tennessee, knowing they squeaked out against Arkansas, that are trying to fight for anything right now. Tennessee, the rest of Tennessee season now has to be completely dominant. And I know they're playing in the SEC. I know they have a tough road ahead of them, but they need to show dominance right now to be in that playoff picture.
And speaking of dominance, Texas Tech dismantled Kansas 42-17. It's the Red Raiders' sixth straight win by 20 or more points for the first time since 1932. Um, man, what a team Texas Tech is. And speaking of dominant, this one pains me to say it. Utah picked up the part. Arizona
Oh,
State, yes, Arizona State didn't have our quarterback, but
uh,
still, this is an impressive victory by Utah. I got to salute to Utah. And it
yeah.
pains me because now they moved to number 23 in the AP Top 25. Arizona State whoosh, down. Um, yeah. Oh man,
Yeah,
that was
and
painful. That was
considering,
painful.
and it was painful considering that our favorite alumnus from Arizona State, Cam Skattebo, had a wonderful game Thursday.
Yes,
They had
yes.
a wonderful game Thursday. I know the city of Philadelphia hates us talking about it. But Cam
Deal with
Scott
it.
had
Deal
a
with it.
one, yeah, Cam Scott had a wonderful game for the Giants on Thursday night. So you kind of figured, maybe that momentum would go into Saturday. It didn't happen, but I think that was a much needed win for Utah. They needed that win right now. Like you said, right now it catapulted them into the AP ranking. But you know what? When you love college football, you kind of root for those schools that they're just going against the grain. They're going against, kind of what we traditionally think of, a college football team. We've mentioned it during our time during, this podcast. I like when there's new blood. We've said it in the beginning. We like when there's new blood. We like when teams are coming into the picture. They're making their names known. They're knocking off the big dogs, if you will. So seeing new teams in this ranking, seeing Old Miss, get in there, seeing Texas A&M, be the, Texas dominate school and not the Longhorns. Texas Tech, same thing. You know, I'll even do it. Even Miami, who had an off week, they did not slip down because of other teams knocking off ranked opponents. So, what we're seeing right now is really great football. I love the surprises. Don't get me wrong. I love the surprises because that's the joy of college football. But knowing now we're at that point that teams are now fighting for positioning. Teams are fighting now for positioning. And the conversation I had with a friend of mine is, with you have teams that have one or two losses that are kind of sitting in that sweet top 12 spot. How is this going to work in the long run? If enough one loss or two loss teams are in that top 12, where does that positioning ranking come into effect? Where does a conference title actually come into effect? And now we're over the hump right now for college football, where now every game matters. Every game matters. And for these teams that are now playing in conference, it's going to be real intense right now.
So to wrap it up, Avery, I gotta mention two games that were very exciting to watch. I'm probably missing another one, but I'm gonna mention these two real quick. Navy comeback victory over Temple, and what's this other one? Purdue versus Minnesota. Minnesota, 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Those two games deserve love, some attention, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
Another one, if I may, USC, Michigan.
Yes, I was gonna mention
USC,
that one as
okay,
well.
yeah,
USC picked up apart Michigan 31 to
absolutely.
13. And Michigan, they're out of the top 25, which I'm gonna head to that in a few. Ohio State, they beat Illinois 34 to 16. Buckeyes forced three turnovers. Kudos to them. Um, of course, Alabama, they beat Missouri 27 to 24. Crimson Tide are 3-0 against ranked opponents in SEC for the first time in program history. Um, wow. Jam Miller, he is talented, but he left the game with a concussion in the fourth quarter, so we have to see what happened there. Ty Simpson threw for 200 yards and three touchdowns. Now, to wrap it up, let's quickly mention the top 25. Like we say, Michigan is out, Penn State been out. So Arizona State also fell off. So here's the top 25 for week 8. Ohio State remains number 1, Miami number 2, Indiana number 3, Texas A&M number 4, Ole Miss 5, Alabama 6, Texas Tech 7, Oregon 8, Georgia 9, LSU 10, Tennessee 11, Georgia Tech 12, Notre Dame 13, Oklahoma 14, BYU 15, Missouri 16, Vanderbilt 17, Virginia 18, South Florida 19. Congrats, South Florida. USC 20, Texas 21, back at it on top.
Back at it, yep.
Memphis 22, happy for Memphis. Utah, they spanked Arizona State, but 23, congratulations to them. Cincinnati 24 and Nebraska
Yeah, and a
25.
very impressive win on Saturday as well. They definitely deserve a spot in the AP poll. Absolutely.
For those of you who are tuning in, who don't know, Miami Hurricanes, yes, they're my favorite college football team, but Arizona State is number 2. That's why I'm reacting the way I'm reacting, but I got to give love where credit's due. But Arizona State, they do have to be better, and they're gonna have to beat Texas Tech to be taken serious again. So, but that does it for college football time with Avery Miguel. Another fantastic week of college football, and we'll see you guys on Friday for the preview for week 9. Avery, enjoy your day off, and I'll see you Friday.
Happy Monday, everyone. Enjoy your week. Take care. Remember, press that subscribe button, like the video.